So, you're new to Tekken, and have decided that Tekken 8 will be your first experience with the series. Or, maybe you've played Tekken as a kid and haven't touched the controller in decades and are just trying to get back into the series. Either way, this video will have you covered. Today, we'll be talking about the best characters for new players. Or, to put it another way, the best characters to learn Tekken with. It's no secret that Tekken is a very complicated game, and despite what some pros will tell you, not all characters are made equally when it comes to learning the game. We hear people say all the time, just play whatever character you think looks cool. And sure, you can take that method if you really want to. But in all honesty, I truly believe this will set you back in the long run. When looking at improvement in fighting games, we want to take a lose now, win later approach, rather than selecting Alisa, going into ranked mode, and spamming your chainsaw for hours just to get cheap wins. You will rank up faster, and you will win more in the short run using this method, but you won't learn. And at the end of the day, that's what Tekken, and any fighting game in that regard, is about. So, what character should you play if you really want to ensure you learn the Tekken fundamentals in the fastest way possible and set yourself up to be the best player you can be in the future? I'll be going over specific characters, but just as a general rule, we want characters who play a very clean game of Tekken. That means simple characters with poke options, good single hit counter hit tools, good pressure options, and more. Most of the characters I'll be mentioning are pretty good characters, but the character's viability doesn't really matter when it comes to this, as long as they have these generic Tekken options and teach you fundamentals. Alright, let's begin. If you ask me, one of the best characters to learn Tekken with is Paul Phoenix, and this remains the same in Tekken 7 and now in Tekken 8. While a lot of low-level players will fight me on this, I think Paul has a very fundamental and clean game plan that doesn't rely on any particular gimmicks to get wins. He's simple, not using a huge move list, and will teach you all the essential aspects of Tekken through his game plan. He has very strong high, mid, and low attacks, and while Paul's poking is not the best, he will teach you how to make the absolute most out of your jab and down forward 1, as they're really all you have in that regard. He'll teach you about pressure, especially wall pressure with all of his various plus moves on block, and he'll teach you about threat ranges with his Demo Man having very weak range. He'll teach you about whiff punishing with his Death Fist and various long range and evasive moves, and arguably most importantly, he'll teach you about timing. Paul is generally considered to be a timing-based character, as he relies on safe pressure and reading your opponent and then scoring a counter hit. Down forward 2 and backsway 4 will force you to learn these things, as these are his main launchers to get your damage started. He'll teach you about 50-50s with his various options. Generally, Paul players will start with the Death Fist and Demo Man 50-50, and then as they rank up, their opponents will start using movement to make space, which completely beats that. So, oh look, another thing learned. Paul teaches you about space control. He'll force you to get good at safely closing the gap and knowing when aggression is needed versus when it isn't. Overall, I think Paul is an amazing pick for newcomers. Besides strong poking, he really has it all, and him being very simple to play but also very strong, and having some of the best damage in the game, makes him a tournament staple. He's one of those characters where if you do end up liking him, you can stick with him for the entire game, and never really struggle. He just scales with player skill, very simple and very effective character. If you want to focus on learning Tekken fundamentals and getting a great understanding of the game, Paul Phoenix is a great pick for you.
Jin Kazama!
Speaking of scaling with player skill, we have our next character, Jin Kazama. Now, if you asked me a year ago if Jin was a good character for beginners, I would have said absolutely not, as he is considered one of the most difficult and complicated characters in Tekken 7. However, here in Tekken 8, it seems like the developers have made an active effort to make Jin far more beginner-friendly. Jin is an insanely strong pick in Tekken 8, as he literally has everything. The character essentially has no weakness anymore, since they've heavily buffed his range in this game. That being said, while he is strong, he's still a fundamentally based character. You won't be spamming 5-hit counter-hit strings against your opponent over and over to get wins on this character. You have to learn Tekken. Jin has excellent poking with his jab and down forward 1, but also has some great multi-hit pokes like back 2-1 and is insanely strong 2-1-4 string, being a very strong high mid-mid. He'll teach you space control with his excellent forward 4, which is one of the best moves in the game now, and counter hit timing with that same forward 4 and his brand new down 2. These are the two moves everyone talks about when they say he's broken, but remember, these moves are both very slow to start up, and they won't get you very far against people mashing quick mid options. This is another big thing he'll teach you. He'll teach you timing and when it's worth going for heavier startup moves and faster pokes. He can teach you the inner workings of 50-50s with his classic, albeit nerfed, Mishima Vortex, and can also teach you execution if you want to go down that path. This is why Jin is sort of a one-size-fits-all character. He just has everything you could want for basically any type of player. If you're the kind of person who just wants to keep learning and keep improving with the character over years and still get better, Jin is the perfect character for you. And if you just want to learn the very basics and just improve your fundamentals, he's also perfect for you. Jin is a Mishima, so this means he has a wave dash and an electric, which naturally scares new players away. But honestly, this stuff shouldn't be things you prioritize learning as a brand new player. Just focusing on the bare basics can go a long way on this character. But hey, if you end up really liking Jin as a newcomer, just know all this difficult and technical stuff is waiting for you whenever you feel like you're ready. Oh yeah, and Jin also gets free electrics out of his stance while in heats, so there's that too. Damn, they really did make Jin easy in this game. Anyways, moving on. Before we go on to the next character, I just gotta shill really quick. Did you guys know that only 4% of my viewers are actually subscribed? And this number used to be at 1.5%, but we've gotten it up to 4, and I think we can keep going. So if you guys enjoyed this video and are interested in more content like it, please consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps me out a lot. I'm trying to make this YouTube thing work out as it's basically my dream job. Anyway, back to the video. The next character who's great for beginners is also in the same category as Jin, where he's insanely broken in Tekken 8, at least as I'm writing this, but he differs in terms of his technical limits, as Claudio has far less depth than Jin and is more similar to Paul. He's another easy, single-hit based character who lacks cheesy strings like a lot of other characters. Claudio will teach you all the basic fundamentals I've mentioned previously. He'll teach you great keep out and whip punishing through his hop kick and basic high-mid mix-ups, and is overall just a very clean and fundamental based character. Everything you could want in a character, Claudio has, and again, very strong character. He has very simple heat engagers, and his game plan is just figure out when your opponent wants to hit you, and hit them with a counter hit move and poke them out, along with basic pressure setups from his while running too. Definitely a great character for beginners. Alright, we're running out of time, so let's do a lightning round of some other great characters. Shaheen. Shaheen is another great option. Very simple character, with almost all the fundamental Tekken tools you could ever want. He has some great counter hit launchers, and in general will teach you the game in a very clean way. And the same goes for martial law. Great pokes, great power crush moves, great counter hits, and not overly gimmicky. Asuka. Asuka is a very simple character, and very effective for new players. She has great keep out and great counter hit tools, and can also teach you the importance of defensive play with her various parries. She's generally a pretty all-around character, though she is a little bit more on the gimmicky side as she has access to some very weird strings that your opponents will need to learn if they want to beat it. Again, these strings will get you very far early game, but getting too used to these will develop some really bad habits, so I suggest you focus on the very basics if you do decide to play Asuka. She's a very simple and very easy character, so you're starting to notice a theme here. The easy characters who are simple and just play fundamental Tekken are great for newcomers. Dragunov is a pretty simple character. I know a lot of people like him. He's a little bit different compared to the other characters we've mentioned so far, mainly because his whole game plan revolves around his while running 2 pressure and the mix-ups you get from that. He's a very mix-up heavy character. His main goal is just to get plus frames and then mix you up and do different options. But he is pretty simple and he is pretty easy. Also having a very good throw game that you'll have to learn. But if you are interested in something a little bit different from the standard Tekken gameplay, but still like not overly gimmicky, Dragunov is a very good option. And let's go over 2 honorable mentions really quick. The first is Leroy Smith, who's very renowned for being super brain dead in Tekken 7 and super overpowered, but unfortunately he's no longer a DLC character, he's part of the main roster, meaning he's not nearly as broken as he used to be. He's actually a very simple character now. He has a very standard Tekken fundamental gameplay, good pokes, good counter hit launchers, and yes, he is heavily nerfed compared to Tekken 7. A lot of his stances were nerfed really heavily, his parry was nerfed, but overall he's still a relatively fundamental based character. I only put him in honorable mention because the stances are still kind of important, and I think stance heavy characters aren't the easiest to learn, like they shouldn't be for beginners because they're so like hyper specific. But speaking of stance based characters, Lars Alexanderson. Lars is very easy, he's definitely an easy character, however he's so different from the rest of the cast. He's entirely a stance-based mix-up character. That's his whole game plan, is just mixing you up with his various different stances. So if you think he looks cool, he is pretty easy and does play generally pretty fundamental, like he has basic pokes, looks for basic counter hits, but there are the stance aspects of it in terms of his mix-up game. So a little bit more complicated and a little bit more different than the average standard Tekken character, but still an option if you like him. And honestly, there's probably a lot more I missed. I know a lot of people think characters like King and Feng Wei are great for beginners, although I personally think they're a little too specific with their gameplay and stances. If you disagree, I totally get it. You can make an argument for way more characters being good for beginners, and I'm super interested, so feel free to leave a comment about which character I missed, and why you guys think they're good for beginners. I'll be down there discussing it with you guys as much as I can. Anyway, that's going to be about it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel, as it helps a lot, and I have a lot more Tekken 8 content coming soon, including some more character guides, news updates, discussion videos, and more. I'm actually planning on doing a character guide for every single character, and I've already done guides on the first 4 characters in the demo, and an overall guide on Tekken 8. So if you guys are interested in that, it's all on my channel. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day. I'll see you later.